Graphing functions by hand. Lines are basic enough to either find the x and the y intercepts and then connect the points, or finding the slope-intercept form and then graphing the y-intercept and the slope from there. So that's how we're going to graph lines. So if it's of the form ax plus by equals c, or if it's of the form mx plus b equals y, then that's how we're going to graph it. However, a quick way to graph any other functions that are not lines is to use a table of points and then connect the points to see what's happening. So in that case, you're going to have x's and y's. You're going to pick numbers for x and put them in, and then you're going to get numbers out for y. And then you're just going to graph those points, x1, y1, x2, and y2, and so on. Now, you're going to want to make sure that you at least do probably 3 or 4 points to kind of see a trend. If you only do 2 points, well, that's a line, and these are not lines. So you're going to have to be careful on those. And so, this first one, 3x minus 5y equals 15. Well, this is in standard form, so I'm going to go ahead and graph the intercepts. So I'm going to put in 0 for x, minus, 5y equals 15. So that's 0, minus 5y, so I'm going to divide by negative 5. So y equals negative 3. So that means the point 0, negative 3 is on the graph. So 0, negative 3 is right there. So I'm going to just graph that point. And then I'm going to put in 3x. I'm going to put 0 in for the y equals 15. And then I'm going to divide by 3 because that's 0 right there. Divide by 3. And x equals 5. So we have the point 5, 0 also as part of the graph. So I'm going to graph that point 5, 0. And then I just connect those 2 points. And there we go, that's our line. However, that's not the only way to graph lines. This next one is in slope-intercept form. So I'm just going to find my b and find my m and then graph it that way. So my b, which is my y-intercept, is the positive 1. And my m, which is my slope, is the negative 3. So negative 3 over 1. So that's my rise over run. So I'm going to cross at positive 1. And I'm going to go down 3 and over 1. So that's, and then I just connect the points. And you'll use a ruler on a test or a quiz, but that's the general idea. You kind of get the idea there. Now, I don't care which way you do it. If you really like slope-intercept form, then you can convert anything to slope-intercept form. If you really like the other way, graphing the intercepts, then you can do it that way too. You just got to manipulate the function a little bit. I don't care how you do it, as long as you get the right answer. Okay, and this next one, it's clearly a quadratic function, but it's kind of hard to see where it's going to be graphed. So I'm going to just pick a few points and put them in and see what happens to the graph. So I want to pick points that are going to be nice whole round numbers. So let's just start with negative 1. I always like to do some negative numbers if possible. And then we'll go 0, and then 1, and 2, and maybe 3, just for good measure. Alright, so if I put in negative 1, then negative 1 times, negative 1 times negative 1, or negative 1 squared, minus 2 times negative 1 plus 4. So that would be 1 minus minus the negative, so that would be plus 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 4 is 7. So that would be a y of 7. So literally just put it in. So then I'm going to put 0 in. 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 4. Well, that's clearly going to be 4. And then put in 1. So 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 4. So if I put that in, then I should get a 1 minus 2, which is a negative 1, plus 4, which is 3. Okay, and then if you put 2 in, go ahead and do all that work out, you should get 4. And then if you put 3 in, do all the work, and you should get a 7. Alright, so all you have to do is plug it in, and you can type it in the calculator, that's fine. So then I just graph these points. So if I'm going to graph this first point, that's going to be negative 1, 7. So I'm just going to plot that point. 0, 4. 1, 3. 2, 4. And 3, 7. So I can kind of see what this parabola is going to look like, and then I just connect the dots. There you go. You just graphed that. This next one might be a little harder because it's a square root. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get a whole number answer to make my life easier. So whenever I see a square root, I'm going to think, what do I have to have underneath the square root to make it perfect number? So I'm thinking of my perfect squares, which would be 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. So I'm going to put in negative 2 for x as a possibility, because negative 2 plus 2 is 0, square root of 0 is 0. So I'm going to put in negative 2. I'll put in 2, because then I get up to 4. If I put in 7, I'm going to get up to 9, because 7 plus 2 is 9, which is a perfect square. And if I put in 14, then I get a perfect square, because 14 plus 2 is 16. All right, so 4 points, that's probably enough to kind of see what's going on. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I put in negative 2, I have 2 times the square root of negative 2 plus 2 minus 3. So that would be 2 times 0, because 0 squared is 0. So 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3, so it's negative 3. So that's my first point. My next one, if I put in 2 square root of 4, 2 plus 2, sorry, I might as well write it that way, minus 3. So 4 squared, or sorry, square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. So I'm going to put 1 there. And then if I put in 7, I'm going to have 2 square root of 7 plus 2 minus 3. So that would be the square root of 9. 2 times the square root of 9, which is 3, minus 3. So that's 6 minus 3, which is 3. Okay, and then if I put 14 in and solve it out, you should get 5. All right, so plug it in the calculator, make sure you put parentheses, and you should be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to graph these points. Negative 2, negative 3. So that's 1 point. The next one is 2, 1. The next one is 7, 3. The next one is 14, and that one's not on my graph, and 5. So it's about right there. And then I just connect those points, and I know it's going to kind of arc like this, because that's my square root function, and that's my function right there. So those are your notes over graphing functions by hand. Go through the practice problems, make sure that you're comfortable graphing lines and putting things in tables and making sure you choose good numbers to put into the tables and all that. So work through some problems like that and then prepare for a quiz over this material.